beast from the sea and the beast from the land, Satan's two allies in an unholy alliance. Isn't it interesting how the beasts of this world are attracted to one another? And so we get Putin and Kim Jong toasting one another with champagne. Very dangerous for this world. Now, the word land and the word sea are not literal, like most things in Revelation. Israel was not a seagoing nation. They were afraid of the sea, and so throughout the scriptures, the sea represents the foreign and the dangerous. The land represents that which is safe. So who is the beast from the sea? Well, just look at the words used about him. Thrones, powers, authority, conquest, war. Those words are used 11 times. Those are words of force and domination. So the beast from the sea represents foreign political and military powers. Now notice that they have 7 heads and 10 horns. That's meant to indicate that there are many of them. No sooner will one disappear than another one will come. Think of poor Poland during the 20th century. In 60 years, she was dominated by 4 different foreign powers. We have to guard our freedom very carefully, or there will be someone ready to take it away. Now look at the description of the beast. He has horns. He looks like a leopard. He has the feet of a bear and the face of a lion. What do those things have in common? Well, they're all predators. They're all destructive. They all kill. Notice the sharp teeth and claws. They are ready to rip and tear. These foreign military powers. Now again, this image was not original with John. It comes from Daniel chapter 7, where actually there are 4 beasts that arise from the sea. And interestingly, in the reverse order, there's a lion, a bear, a leopard, and a creature with horns. Now in Daniel, those represented the 4 foreign powers that dominated Israel for 400 years. Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Syria, or the Seleucids. And now John is adding in brackets Rome. And so these beasts that keep on coming, always led by megalomaniacs, people who think only of themselves and want power. The frightening thing about megalomaniacs is how they have an ability to attract people, almost devilish. Look at verse 3. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. Be very careful when you get close to one of them, because they have attractive powers. Look at this frightening picture from Nazi Germany in 1935. Over 1 million people gathered together simply to watch Hitler ride by on the way to one of his rallies. And I find this picture even more frightening. The way that he attracted young people. Look at the adoration on the faces of those boys. And there he is receiving the adulation. I came on this very good quote. There is no shortage of megalomaniacs in this world, and no shortage of people to follow them. And then the beast from the land, what does he stand for? Well, look at the words used about him. Like a lamb, worship, worship, great signs, fire from heaven, set up an image, give breath to the image. These are the words of religion. And notice that this is from the land. The Israelites were very familiar with religion. There were many religions in Canaan at that time, some of them dreadful. But they were from the land. They weren't afraid of them. They were familiar with them. They were almost pathologically attracted to them. And they can be attractive. Notice that they do miracles. They do great signs. Fire out of heaven like Elijah, for goodness sake. And they offer health and wealth. If they can breathe life into a dead image, they can cure your cancer, surely. And if you will just bear the mark on your forehead, you will be able to buy and sell and trade and become wealthy. We need to be very careful of religious leaders that offer worldly wealth, because I just don't believe that's the way of Christ. Now, political leaders know that they need the support of religion. Hitler knew it very well. They need to look like a lamb. And so Hitler in 1928 said this: "We tolerate no one in our ranks who attacks the ideas of Christianity." How's that for irony and lying? When he got to power, he persecuted the Catholics abominably. Then he went on to say, in fact, our movement is Christian. We must be very careful of political leaders who espouse Christianity in support of their politics and yet do not show godly living. Hitler knew that he needed the support of the church, and the two together, church and state, make a very dangerous combination. That's why the best democracies separate church and state, so that the two can be a check and a balance to one another. And Hitler knew he couldn't afford the opposition of the church, so he set out to look like a lamb. Look at this beautiful picture of all these young schoolgirls, so beautifully dressed, so beautifully choreographed. He must be a lamb, surely. And the boys at the same rally, not quite as undisturbing. I think there's a touch of the pagan about this. Why are they holding those great poles? And their bare chests. It's really a bit pagan, but notice especially the swastika towering over everything. That particular swastika has been turned upright from its usual 45 degrees so that it looks like a cross, a broken cross. Goebbels knew that the German people needed religious symbolism, and so he replaced the cross with the swastika. And he did things like rallies at night and torchlight rallies that would give a sort of religious idea to them. Look at this magnificent setup at the Brandenburg Gate. It looks like a temple, doesn't it? A devastating combination of political and religious. And even in our own country, the Dutch Reformed Church had to bear some responsibility for apartheid. While the church supported the state, it was very hard to break it down. And I was very relieved in 1989 when Dominee Haynes, then head of the Dutch Reformed Church, came out and said apartheid is a sin. From that day, apartheid was doomed. But the beast hates to be betrayed, and so he was shot through his lounge window while he was reading a storybook to his grandchild on his lap. That surely is a mark of the beast. And so we come to the mark of the beast, 666. Notice that it's the religion that puts that on people, not the politicians. Now, what does the 666 stand for? So much time and energy has been wasted on this, working out who it stands for. It's nothing to do with microchips. It's nothing to do with barcodes. It's not even to do with an individual. The secret actually lies in verse 18, which says, it is the number of a man. Now that's incorrect translation. The word "a" doesn't appear in Greek. It should read the number of man, or the number of humanity. Bear in mind that back in Genesis chapter 1, the number 6 was used. On the 6th day, God created human beings. 6 is the number of humanity. Now, when you say 666 three times, like holy, 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 you're making it absolute. What 666 is saying, humanity is absolute. 666 is humanity divorced from divinity. Day 7 is God's day, the day of divinity. And so 666 is treat this world as if it's all there is. Just pursue material well-being. Live like an animal. And we forget that our greatest good is the nearness of God. Now again, John didn't originate this phrase 666. It comes from the Old Testament. Solomon, would you believe, earned 666 talents of gold a year. Solomon's great failure was that he abandoned God in favor of material and political wealth. And in the end, he ended up saying, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. Indeed it is, when we divorce humanity from divinity. And his pursuit of gold. When we get to Revelation, we read that the streets are paved in gold, not because God wants to make heaven look pretty. God is showing that in heaven, gold is just pavement to walk on, and people give their whole lives pursuing it. Our greatest good is the nearness of God. And then we come to Jesus. We read the Word became flesh. Jesus is the Word and he was God, but he became human. God became human. 7 became 6 to save humanity. And when was Jesus crucified? Why, on a Friday, the 6th day of the week. On the day of humanity, he died to save humanity. And the 6th day was the day in which creation was finished. And at the end of that Friday, he said, it is finished. he had completed the new creation. And then, like God, as God, he rested on the seventh day.
His wounds have paid my